Hello there, I'm TJ, better known as the Amazing Atheist. This is my brother Scotty, and last night we went to see Hercules!
The greatest movie of all time.
Hercules!
There's a rifle attack me, you fat piece of shit.
No. Fat? This is pure muscle. I'm Hercules, bitch. Yeah, look at that. It's jiggly muscle. It's jiggly
I'm a little
muscle.
bit better.
Yeah, you got something going on, but not much. Anyway, so Hercules, does it suck? Yeah, pretty much.
It's pretty much the average, middle-of-the-road, predictable, generic summer movie you're gonna go see. I mean, you might not go see it, but if you do, that's pretty much what you're gonna leave thinking.
And when I tweeted some negative things about it yesterday, people on Twitter were like, "Oh, it's just an action movie. What do you expect?" Well, I expect at least like competency in the air. Like, it's just so generic, so paint by numbers. There's nothing original. There's nothing interesting. In fact, the most interesting part of the movie is the beginning of the movie where, by the way, this review is going to contain spoilers. The most interesting thing in the movie is the beginning when Hercules' little cousin is telling the story of Hercules to some pirates that have captured him to scare the pirates. And he's talking about Hercules slaying the Hydra and slaying the giant warthog and slaying the fucking lion with the impenetrable hide.
You know what labor they left out?
What?
Cleaning the stables. Which really be appropriate because this movie is shit. Why didn't the movie mention that one? Hercules had to clean out a bunch of shit.
Was that really one of the labors?
Yes.
Wow. Well, maybe I'll tell you what, this movie is a labor to sit through. And the thing about all that stuff I just mentioned, the Hydra and the warthog and the lion, all that stuff that was in the trailer, none of that actually happens, okay? That's just part of a story that another character is telling.
In the first 5 minutes.
In the first 5 minutes. All that stuff in the trailer, like, yeah, Hercules is gonna do all this crazy epic shit. Nope, he sure the fuck doesn't. That's just the legend of Hercules. Then you meet the real Hercules, who can't do any of that shit, who lives in a world without crazy monsters like that, and just fights men, and is not the son of Zeus, most likely, and is just this, you know, it's like one of those, like, we're gonna do, like, the true story, you know, but not really like a true story, but a more realistic version of the legend, or whatever. And
fuck you, Brett Ratner.
Yeah. I mean, what did you say, Scotty? You compared it to, like...
Oh, I said it was basically like if, like, 2,000 years from now, they're like, let's make a movie about Superman, but instead of him having magical powers or superhero powers, instead he's gonna be some lame guy, and his, like, cousin's gonna come around and be like, Superman can fucking, fly and shit.
Yeah, and then he's like, yeah, they attach him to, like, the cable. He's like, yeah, look, I'm flying, everybody.
He's gonna be some roided out dude who's gonna punch people, and it's like, man, he almost knocked that guy's head off.
I mean, like, what the fuck is wrong with making a movie about the actual legends of Hercules? That's what's interesting. You know? Like, taking away his powers and just making him, like, he's just a really strong guy. That's not as interesting. Like, I wanted to see a story about him conquering impossible monsters.
Yeah, Hercules is sought out by our genie.
A bland princess.
And the way they convince them is, we'll pay you your weight in gold.
Yeah, and then the other guy pushes a plate of food to Hercules like, eat up. And so Hercules gets hired by King Coitus? No, it can't be right. Cottus? I don't know.
They all have fucking Greek names.
He gets hired by King John Hurt to save the kingdom, but of course you could tell instantly, like, oh, John Hurt is secretly evil. And he is. And then Hercules has to, like, make a choice, like, am I going to accept this money and go away, or am I going to save this kingdom? And guess what he fucking chooses? He saves the kingdom and redeems himself. And that's pretty much the entire plot of the shitty movie. Now, let's get into some of the supporting cast, Hercules' little crew. So, first of all, let's talk about Dwayne Johnson, who I still call The Rock, as Hercules. He definitely has the build of Hercules, but Hercules himself is a pretty bland fucking character. He's just like a generic good guy. Even when he's a mercenary killing for money, you really don't get the sense of like a hardened warrior type. He still has that very like, I'm just a swell guy kind of thing.
Well, they kind of do that throughout the movie, because like Hercules is kind of a hero, so he never really does anything bad. It's always kind of like, oh, I like kids, and I like animals, and I'm not really that bad of a guy, and like, I have a troubled past.
Dwayne Johnson does a perfect...
As far as the physicality, since Conan the Barbarian, no one's really matched up as well for a role as far as the physicality of the role. I mean, the acting, is whatever. I mean, it's Brett Ratner. He isn't how to direct actors. I mean, just look up the X-Men movies he made and everything else he's done. He's horrible.
So then, let's talk a little bit about Hercules' companions in this movie. There's Amphiaraus.
Amphiaraus?
We're
butchering his names.
Anyway,
it's basically the stoner.
That's the stoner oracle guy. And he was played by Ian McShane, who I think the only other thing I remember seeing him in was Pirates 4, which fucking was terrible. But he was a lot better in this. In fact, I think he was probably the most interesting and dynamic character in the movie. Not that that's really saying much in a movie as tepid and bland as this.
Then we have the Evil King.
Pretty much all the funny lines in the movie belong to him.
Yeah, we have Evil King, who we talked about.
We already kind of got into John Hurt.
He's just a generic villain.
John Hurt is a good actor.
He is, but he's just a generic villain.
Yeah, in this movie, he's just...
He wants a paycheck.
Generic villain, put John Hurt in the movie to give it some credibility.
Who's it? Rufus...
Autolycus?
Yeah, played by Rufus Sewell.
Sewell? I don't know.
We're horrible pronouncing names, if you haven't guessed.
He's basically the asshole character, but with the heart of gold.
Yeah, like, I'm in it for money, but, not really.
Yeah, and he's like Hercules' mercenary friend, probably the most realistically mercenary of the mercenaries.
Yeah.
He just wants money and shit.
And of course he's from, they say he's from Sparta, so he's a warrior from Sparta.
He's a badass, and blah, blah, blah. And his character's pretty bland and generic, too. But, it's like typical, like, he seems like an asshole and gruff on the surface, but inside he has a heart of gold and blah, blah, blah. And then there was Titius, or whatever, a.k.a. the silent, sad badass with severe emotional trauma and scars all over his face. Doesn't talk, has to emote everything with his eyes.
And if you're wondering, he does talk at the end of the movie.
Right.
As he's dying,
he looks at Hercules and says, Hercules, and that's the only thing he says. And his character, I guess, was kind of interesting. You don't really see a lot of him. He's used sparingly. He's used effectively. I can't really complain too much about that.
Yeah, he was fine, besides, the lame,
Then there's Atalanta, which sounds a lot like Atlanta, who's just the generic female badass, who really has no character traits outside of just being the female character.
Basically what they did with her was they have this scene in the movie where John Hurt's like, I don't know, even if an Amazon can handle this, then she does some badass shit, and he's like, oh, I was wrong.
I stand corrected.
That's basically her character development.
Right, and it's just, let's shoehorn a female badass in there. Don't bother giving her any sort of other memorable characteristics. It's enough that she's female, and maybe she's a little bit eye candy for some people. I don't know. I didn't really consider that attractive. Not that it really matters. Iolus. I'm going to say Aeolus, right. That's Hercules' wussy cousin, who wants
to fight, but no, don't fight.
Right, and he's like, I'm tired of telling other people's tales. I want to fight. It's like, no, you're a pussy. You can't fight.
Yeah,
Shut the fuck up. And then at one point in the movie, he stabs a guy in the back, and Hercules is like, good job. It's like, what? It's like, that's not hard to do. He's really annoying. Wish he wasn't even in the movie. Or at least he was written differently or acted differently or something. There's King Eurystheus. Yeah, who cares? Yeah. And then there's Josephine Fiennes, I don't know, as yet another good king who turns out to be evil! Because I guess one wasn't fucking enough.
And you know how they really demonstrate to the audience he's evil? He has two peacocks. He's like, Hercules, look at my peacocks.
Yeah, he's like, aren't they exquisite? Yes, anyone who would appreciate peacocks must be evil.
I guess so.
And he was slightly effeminate, which, of course, in a movie like this means he's a bad guy.
He's evil.
Because it's like, he's kind of gay.
He's literally only in 2 scenes in the movie.
Turn that shit off.
And I'm getting a phone call. Hello?
You really going to answer that? Rhesus, I guess?
Or is it Reyes?
I thought it was Rhesus. It looks like Rhesus.
Okay, Rhesus.
who's basically the red herring bad guy, like the guy that you're supposed to think is the bad guy until you realize that John Hurt is the real bad guy, which you realize like 2 seconds after seeing John Hurt's character. Anyway,
the real problem with him was this: was that okay? After his little army is defeated, Hercules, he says to Hercules, "Don't you know what's really going on?" And it's like, okay, if Hercules didn't realize what was going on to begin with, then like, isn't he just a dumbass? Or is he just like, oh, I'm doing this for the gold? I guess they kind of tried to make it like that, you know what I'm saying? Where it was like, but it's so vague. It's probably this movie, a lot of shit is just like left up like, we're strongly implying this, but then maybe not. I don't know.
And Rhesus, he's not even really a character. He's just like a guy that shows up and gets defeated, and then he gets chained up, and you don't even really see any closure in his storyline at all.
No character development. He's just the red herring bag.
Sidicles was played by Peter Mullen. He's the douchebag general who doesn't really believe in Hercules and says some snide things, and then of course eventually he confronts Hercules and gets killed.
Okay, but here's another thing. You think they're gonna have this big battle sequence? Like this guy basically uses a whip. He whips Hercules around his neck after Hercules kills what character is the king of Athens, the king of Hercules. Hercules kills that guy, which actually is a pretty cool scene. So like, okay, now he's gonna fight this general. Nope. Hercules' cousin stabs him in the back.
Not Hercules.
No, Hercules' cousin stabs him in the back.
Right, Aeolus. Yeah, that's the guy that Aeolus stabs. He just like, you think there's going to be a cool fight between Hercules and the general, and then it's like, oh, nope, he just gets stabbed by the wussy character that no one even fucking cares about. And then there was Erginia, who was, I guess, kind of Hercules' love interest.
Yeah, nothing really happened.
She's a princess. There's no, I mean, she's real, I mean, she's like she's a princess, and she helps her people, and she works as a healer even though she doesn't have to because there's a shortage of medical people, and whatever.
She's just a generic character.
And then we couldn't even figure out the name of her little kid. We just called him Obnoxious.
Yeah, Obnoxious.
And I don't know who plays him. He's just an annoying gee shucks.
Kid. Runs up to Hercules. You're so strong, Hercules. Did you really do all that shit the legends say? Yeah, whatever, kid.
And every time, and The Rock doesn't even know what to do. He just kind of smiles at the kid oh, yeah, kid.
You love him a little scamp.
Yeah, this'll whatever. Okay, so that's pretty much all the major characters in the movie. Let's kind of talk about some of our complaints about the movie.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, first of all, Hercules never really fights anyone that challenges him in this movie. You want to see a cool battle sequence where Hercules, struggles against something with some adversity. But that never happens in this movie, not even once. The only time it really even sort of happens is when he fights some wolves. But even that's over way too quick.
You know what? Maybe if Hercules would have fought something like a Hydra or a Cyclops or something, maybe it would have been a challenge.
Right, How about that? That's a fucking novel concept. Have Hercules actually fight some monsters like he did in the Greek myths. That might have been interesting.
I don't know what it is with Hollywood. Remember, I don't know, maybe it was... Okay. You call from motherfucker. I don't know what it was, 10 years ago, they did, the real story of King Arthur. It fucking sucked. No one wants the real story. No one wants real life. No one wants to see a fucking movie about, here's a barista, and here's his, struggle through life. Man, gotta drive to school every day. Gotta drive to work every day. Gotta take a shit now. No one wants to go fucking see a movie about that.
The gritty reboot of Robin Hood with Russell Crowe.
Oh, God, another fucking...
why do they keep doing this? These movies fucking suck! I want to see the cool, legendary acts of the mighty hero. I don't want to see him reduced to just some fucking chump.
Yeah, we want to see Hercules, facing off with, Hades and shit, and Hera, fuck you, Hercules, I'm gonna destroy you, and Zeus is come on, Hercules, you gotta do this shit.
This movie is so fucking predictable. You can see every plot point coming 1,000 fucking miles away. Everything that happens in the movie... if you have any experience watching movies at all, you will know what's going to happen 20 to 30 minutes before it even happens. Hercules is kind of assholey companion that we were talking about earlier. He leaves because he's I'm just taking the gold and running. So you just look at your watch okay, so when is he going to come back and save them from some trap they can't possibly get out of? And, 20 minutes later, of course, like, I'm back, guys!
Boom.
I saved this fucking kid at just the right moment. Because I couldn't fucking, I couldn't live with myself if I just left. It's like, wow, asshole, he really was a nice guy all along. I mean, and it's full of moments like that. You just know every single fucking thing that's gonna happen before
And
it
remember,
happens.
at the very end of the movie, and this is probably the biggest spoiler you could say, is there's a statue of Hera, which they, reference in the beginning, like, statue of Hera, maybe you can atone, Hercules. Because if you don't know, Hera basically hates Hercules.
Right.
From the mythology. And Hercules somehow pushes this giant statue over.
Right.
By killing this advancing force. And it's like, what? But he's not a demigod, but he somehow has inhuman strength to fucking topple a giant statue?
Yeah.
Like, what? This whole movie has been predicated upon the real story of Hercules, who's a myth. The real story of a myth. Oh, okay, well, that's stupid. But then suddenly, he has inhuman strength. And another scene in the movie is similar. Like, Hercules is fucking chained up. These thick-ass chains. And the stoner guy's like, we believe in you. Like, who are you? And he's like, Hercules! And he just fucking breaks free and just starts killing people. And
By the way, The Rock's delivery of that line was terrible.
Yeah, it was horrible.
I am Hercules! No.
And The Rock did make it like in the first battle sequence of not the first, but the second battle sequence of the movie when he's facing off against the rebels, like, he makes this speech and it's horrible. The Rock, stop making speeches in movies. Like, you just, no. They're no good.
Or at least if you're gonna make a speech, get a decent writer to write it first. Because whoever wrote this piece of shit was smoking crack.
Honestly, I place the blame on this movie sucking on one person. Brett Ratner. Brett Ratner has done the same MO. He takes something that has a really good story, and he squeezes the lemon dry till there's just a fucking rind left, and says, here you go. Eat this. And you go, this tastes like shit, and there's nothing to it. There you go.
Yeah, like in X-Men, where he took the perfectly serviceable good first two movies, and he decided, like, I'm gonna wrap up the trilogy by taking a big shit on it. I'm the Juggernaut, bitch! Ugh.
Why, Brett?
And hey, guess what? He's gonna fucking make Beverly Hills Cop 4. So we can all look forward to hating that piece of shit.
Will Eddie Murphy probably make a horrible cameo? Yes, he will.
Cameo? He's gonna fucking star in it.
Oh my god. Brett Ratner, if you ever somehow see this video, which is unlikely because you're probably having your dick sucked by little boys or whatever it is you fucking do, you piece of shit. Fuck you. You are a fucking horrible director. You have no concept of story. You have no concept of fucking acting. You have no concept of performance. You don't even know how to make a movie about a mythological fucking legend properly. What is so hard about this? So many movies overuse CGI. One movie that can actually benefit from CGI has almost fucking none. I don't even know.
And the little insult cherry on the fucked up shit sundae is at the end of the movie when they do this little the stoner oracle character does his speech, and he's like, I don't know if Hercules was the son of Zeus or not, but or if the legends are true, but I like this story better. It's like, well then you're a fucking idiot. This story sucks. The actual legends of Hercules are way more interesting than this boring pile of shit. This is just some Hollywood cookie cutter, give us your fucking money. I mean,
that's just Brett Ratner bending you over. After he fucked you, after it's like he's like a bully. It takes the money out of your wallet, your lunch money. I got your lunch money. Then afterwards, after you fucking like, man, I'm really hungry. At the end, at the fucking lunch bell rings. He comes and bends you over the table and fucks you in the ass. He's like, yeah, my version of fucking Hercules is better, isn't it, bitch? Remember I did X-Men? You're like, yeah, that was horrible. Oh, I'm gonna do it again with Hercules. Oh, why? That's basically watching Hercules. You pay money to get fucked in the ass. And even if you don't like it.
I think it's more like if he takes your sandwich away and then takes a shit in your mouth and then says, wasn't that piece of shit better than that sandwich? He's like, no!
I would say it's a better analogy. Still, I just hate Brett Ratner. I do not know why he keeps getting... I just can't fathom why he keeps getting movies. Like, why a studio thinks, like, hey, we need this guy to make this movie. Like, why do studios think people want to see, especially males, want to see action movies that are rated PG-13, have almost no blood, almost have no nudity, have almost no gore, and then like, there's no real fucking story. It's just this generic story. Like, do they honestly think the fans of these movies are like, you know what I want to see? A bland-ass movie. I mean, apparently they must fucking think they want to see that, and the box office is looking like it's, we're right.
Do you like bland characters, generic, predictable plots, and badly choreographed action? Then go see Hercules!
So I guess
last night I said I gave it a 5, but in retrospect I'd say maybe like a 3.
I have to say the movie, yeah, we're going to rate it now. You're saying 3?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to say the movie is probably... I don't want to give it a higher rating, but I don't think it deserves a 3. I think I'll give it a 4. Just because, like, there were some things in the movie. I guess we better talk about, like at least something positive.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up on a positive note. And just talk about
it's hard to do. This is really hard to do, but let's each say something positive.
I just want to say that even though we're going to say some positive things here, everything good about this movie has been done way better in other movies.
Completely.
There was a nice pair of boobs towards the beginning of the movie, and you almost saw a nipple.
Okay, man, you really grasping for straws. I would say the physicality The Rock brought to the role. I think he did a good job of looking the part of Hercules. Like when I was watching the movie, I wasn't sitting there saying, like, I don't believe he could be Hercules. I really bought him as the character. I mean, I think some of his line deliveries were bad, but I mean, the script sucked.
Right.
So, I mean, I would say The Rock really did a good job in the role. But, I mean, I think the little stoner guy, played by Ian McShane, I thought he was funny. He was funny and a good character, but for the most part, most of the characters were predictable, bland, and forgettable.
Yeah, I mean, there were some funny moments. There was some decent action. Most of it sucked. There was some interesting visuals occasionally. It's not worth the price of admission.
Yeah, overall, do not...
If you're channel surfing at like 2 in the morning and you see it on, maybe it's worth watching for 20 minutes.
Yeah, but do not go to the theater and see this movie.
Don't pay your hard money for this.
We just saved you $10. Now send the money to us, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
So we can buy like hookers and ice cream or something. I don't know.
Ice cream and hookers.
All right, is there anything else you have to say about the movie?
No, I'm done.
All right, fuck off.